Good morning, students. Welcome to our online class. This is your second period, and the subject is economics. So, students, you all are welcome. Today, the class will be in the form of recorded video. Students, we have started the second chapter, and in previous period we have completed up to the topic privatization under LPG, and in yesterday topic we have studied what is meant by privatization, the two definitions, why there is a need for privatization, what are the gains and losses that are occurred due to privatization. So this topic we have completed, plus we have studied about the Navratnas, the Maharatnas and the Mini Ratnas. So we have studied that one, and today in this video we will take up a new topic called globalization under LPG. LPG. So G means what? Globalization. So today we are starting the topic globalization. What is meant by globalization? When it was started? Why there is need for globalization? What was the impact of globalization on Indian economy? At the same time we will study about the World Trade Organization. What are the functions of World Trade Organization and the impact of World Trade Organization on Indian economy? So these things we will study in today's video. Fine, students. Now, globalization. Globalization means, generally in one sentence if you ask me, I would say integration of world markets. The integration of world markets can be said as globalization. This globalization started in 1990s. Sorry, it was started in 1990s. Clear? And there are so many merits and demerits are there of globalization. You have studied in class 10th about the impact of globalization. Now, what globalization actually as per the textbook of NCERT? Globalization means integrating the economy of a country with the economies of other countries. Whenever one country's economy will integrate, will join with the economies of other countries, then that can be called as globalization. I repeat once again. Generally, integrating the world markets can be called as globalization. At the same time, globalization means integrating the economy of a country with the economies of other countries under conditions of free flow of trade. Under the conditions of free flow of trade and capital across borders. Whenever there will be free flow of trade and capital across borders, whenever there will be free flow of trade and capital across borders, or when one country's economy is integrating with the economies of the rest of the world, then this can be called as globalization. And today we are living in the age of globalization. Today, goods, services, trade and also capital is transferring across borders. Today, our Indian economy is integrated with the world economies or economies of other countries. So we can say today we are living in the age of globalization. And I told you, students, this globalization actually started in 1990s. Okay. Globalization may be defined as, if you ask a definition, globalization may be defined as a process associated with increasing openness I repeat, globalization may be defined as a process associated with increasing openness, growing economic independence, and deepening economic integration of the world economy. I repeat once again, globalization may be defined as a process associated with increasing openness, growing economic independence, and deepening economic integration of the world economy can be defined as globalization. Now, economic reforms which were started in 1991, the economic reforms which were started in 1991 aims at integrating Indian economy with the global economy. One of the economic reform of 1991 is what? Integrating Indian economy with the global economy. As a result, there will be unrestricted flow of goods and services, technology and expertise between India and the rest of the world. Particularly, it is expected that capital and technology will flow from the developed countries of the world towards India. I repeat, particularly it is expected that capital and technology will flow from the developed countries of the world towards India. Okay. Now, outsourcing, one new word is there. What is meant by outsourcing? So listen, this word is very, very important. So you should know, as a student of economics, you should know what is meant by outsourcing. So listen carefully. Actually, outsourcing is one of the important concept which is the outcome of globalization. I can say it is globalization that gave birth to outsourcing. So this is an important outcome. Outsourcing is an important outcome of the process of globalization. Now, what is outsourcing? So outsourcing refers to a system of hiring business services from the outside world. What is meant by outsourcing? Listen carefully, very, very important. Outsourcing refers to a system of hiring business. Hiring, HIRANG, a system of hiring business services from the outside world. Whenever you hire some of the business services from the outside world, that is called outsourcing. I repeat, outsourcing is the outcome of globalization, and outsourcing refers to it's a system of hiring business services. It is a system of hiring business services from the outside world. These services include, what are the services that comes under outsourcing? Some examples I am giving. Some of the examples of outsourcing I am giving now. So what are the business services that comes under outsourcing? Namely, call centers, medical transcriptions, clinical advice, teaching, coaching, and the similar things like this. Teaching, coaching, clinical advice, call centers, and medical transcription are some of the examples about outsourcing. So whenever we hire the business services from outside the world, that's called outsourcing. It is the outcome of globalization. India is emerging as an important destination of outsourcing. India, our country India, is emerging as an important destination. Our country became one of the destination for outsourcing services. I repeat, India is emerging as an important outsourcing destination in the world, particularly BPO, business process outsourcing, BPO, and also one more is the KPO, knowledge process outsourcing. I repeat, India is emerging as an important destination of outsourcing, particularly BPO, business process outsourcing, also called as what? Call centers. Here BP is also called what? Call centers. This is because of two important reasons. Why BPO is called outsource? Why BPO is called the call centers? Why BPO is called the call centers? Two reasons. Okay. Number one, availability of cheap labor in India. I can say India became the destination of outsourcers in the world because in India cheap labor is available, human resource is cheaply available, or relatively low wage rate for the skilled workers. When compared with other countries, our country's skilled workers are paid less, though we are also skilled and the labor of other countries also skilled, but when compared with the skilled laborers of other countries, we are paid less. So in India, the skilled labor is available at cheaper wage rate. Moreover, the human cheap labor is available. Second one, a revolutionary growth, a change, a revolutionary growth of IT industry in India. In India, there was a tremendous growth of IT industry, information technology industry. Hence, outsourcing, India became the destination for outsourcing of the rest of the world. Now, what are the policies and strategies? What are the policies and strategies that are helping in promoting globalization of the Indian economy? Another topic, policy strategies promoting globalization. So what are those policy strategies that helps in promoting globalization of the Indian economy? Let us see. So here there are some policy strategies. There are some policy strategies that helps in promoting globalization of the Indian economy. So he has given here. Following are some of the important policy strategies. The following are some of the important policy strategies that have influenced the process of globalization of the Indian economy. What are the? Number one, increase in equity limit of foreign investment. Increase in equity limit of foreign investment. That means equity limit of foreign capital investment has been raised from initial 40%. Earlier, for any Indian industry, we allowed foreign companies to invest at least 40%, not more than that. If they will invest more than 40%, that industry will come under foreign sector industry. That industry will be termed as foreign sector industry. So earlier, as per the government rules of India, we allowed any foreign country to invest their surplus money in our Indian industry up to 40% only, not more than that. If they invest more than that, then that industry will come under foreign sector industry. But today, we have increased the equity limit of foreign investment. Today, we have raised the equity limit of foreign investment. Okay. Now it ranges between 51 to 100%. Earlier, the equity foreign investment in Indian industry was only 40%, but now it was raised from 51 to 100%. In 47 high priority industries, foreign direct investment FDI, to the extent of 100% has been allowed without any restriction and red tapeism. Export trading houses have also been allowed. Foreign capital investment up to 100%. However, Foreign Exchange Management Act FEMA. Earlier it was FERA, Foreign Exchange Regulation Act FERA. Earlier it was FERA, Foreign Exchange Regulation Act 1970. When FERA was launched, 1970, Foreign Exchange Regulation Act. But it was changed into FEMA, Foreign Exchange Management Act in the year 1999. So, however, Foreign Exchange Management Act, FEMA, has enforced what? Compliance to FEMA has been accorded high priority. Now, second important policy strategy, that is partial convertibility. Partial means what? Not fully. Here partial means not fully. Partial convertibility. Convertibility. What is meant by partial convertibility? Listen. To achieve the objective of globalization, in order to achieve the objective of globalization, partial convertibility of Indian rupee has also been allowed for the following transactions. I repeat, in order to achieve the objectives of globalization, partial convertibility of Indian rupee has been allowed for the following transactions. Number one. So when this currency was used, number one, import and exports of goods and services. Whenever we do export imports of goods and services between one country with other country, then we can use this convertibility. Second one, payment of interest or dividend on investment. Payment of interest or dividend on investment. So this payment also made through convertibility of converting foreign exchange. Third one, remittances, clearing. Remittances means what? Clearing the debts. Remittances to meet family expenses. It is called partial convertibility because it does not cover capital transactions. Now, you may got doubts, sir, what is meant by partial convertibility? We are unable to understand. So here he is given what is meant by partial convertibility. So partial convertibility refers to the sale and purchase of foreign currency. What is meant by partial convertibility? Here partial convertibility means what? The sale and purchase of foreign currency, which we call as what? Foreign transactions at the market price. Whenever you will find the sale and purchase of foreign currency or foreign transactions at market price, then that's called what? Partial convertibility. I repeat, what is meant by partial convertibility? Partial convertibility refers to what? The sale and purchase of foreign currencies at market price. Now, third one, long-term trade policy. This is another policy strategy for promoting globalization. For what? Long-term trade policy. In conformity with the economic reforms, foreign trade policy is enforced for a longer duration, nearly 5 years. Now, long-term foreign trade policy, whenever you do trade with any country, at least 5 years you have to establish that one. So, in conformity with the economic reforms, the foreign trade policy is enforced for a longer duration, say for example 5 years, implying that it is a liberal policy. Next one. Under this policy, all restrictions and control of foreign trade has been removed. Open competition is encouraged. Next one. Next topic, that is next subheading, reduction in tariffs. Reduction in what? Tariffs, custom duties, export duties, import duties, reduction of tariffs. So earlier we are imposing tariffs. Indian government is imposing tariffs on imports and exports. Now we have reduced the tariffs so that the exports and imports of goods and services can take place easily between countries. So reduction of tariffs. In order to encourage competitiveness, tariff barriers, tariff restrictions. In order to encourage competitiveness, the tariff barriers or tariff restrictions have been withdrawn by the government on most goods traded between India and the rest of the world. So tariffs have been reduced. Now, withdrawal of quantitative restrictions. So this is also one of the policy strategy adopted by Indian government in order to promote globalization of the Indian economy. So here, withdrawal of quantitative restrictions. What comes under this one? Since 2001, the quantitative restrictions on all import items. Since 2001 onwards, the quantitative restrictions on all import items have been totally withdrawn. This is in conformity with India's commitment to WTO. So as per the direction of WTO, we have followed. Now coming to what is meant by WTO, World Trade Organization. WTO means what? World Trade Organization. Its headquarters is located in Geneva. Actually, WTO is one of the agency. WTO is one of the agency that works under UNO. WTO is one of the agency that works under UNO. Okay, and its headquarters is at Geneva. What is the main function of WTO? The main function of WTO is to promote international trade, to promote free trade among all the countries, to promote free trade among all the countries, to promote international trade. And whenever there will be international trade among the countries, and whenever there will be conflicts and disputes, whenever there will be conflicts and disputes arised between countries on foreign trade, then those disputes will be settled by, those conflicts will be settled by WTO. Suppose India and China, or India and Pakistan, or India and Afghanistan, or India and London, suppose if you have any trade conflicts, any foreign trade conflicts, any problems, then we have to go before WTO, and the WTO will solve those problems. Here WTO is one of the international organization that is working in a promotion of foreign trade throughout the world, that to free trade without any restrictions. So WTO, World Trade Organization, is expected to play an important role in the context of globalization. I mean, when WTO was formed, then everybody hoped that this WTO will help in promoting globalization in the world. So everybody expected that this WTO, this international agency or organization, will help in promoting what? Globalization. So same thing said here, the World Trade Organization, I mean WTO, is expected to play an important role in the context of globalization of the world economies. What it is supposed to do? Actually, what WTO is supposed to do? Answer, it is supposed to do or supposed to promote free trade in international market by reducing tariff barriers. I told you, the main aim of WTO is to promote free trade among all the countries by removing the trade barriers. I mean, WTO is urging to all the countries that they should remove the trade barriers. They should encourage free trade in their country. So through free trade, we can get an opportunity to meet the international markets. We can get an opportunity to meet the international standards. We can get the exposure of international market. Our Indian goods also can be sold in the international market, and our Indian producers, apart from domestic market, they can sell their production in the international market. At the same time, Indians also will get an opportunity to get the foreign countries' products in our country, India. So what WTO is supposed to do? It is supposed to promote the free trade in the international market by reducing the tariff barriers and by removing non-tariff barriers. It is focusing on the competition of international market and free access to markets across the different countries of the world. It is facilitating, it is helping, providing facilities. So WTO is facilitating bilateral as well as multilateral trade agreements. WTO, World Trade Organization, is always promoting bilateral trade and multilateral trade. What is meant by bilateral trade and what is meant by multilateral trade? Listen, students. Bilateral trade means whenever the trade agreements are done between two countries. Whenever the trade agreements are done between two countries in any particular good and service. Say for example, India and here I can say Pakistan, or India and China, or India and Afghanistan, any country. Now India and Pakistan, say for example. Both the countries agreed to do trade on what? Coal. They signed a bilateral agreement. That means whenever India wants to sell coal, it has to sell coal only to Pakistan, and India have no right to sell coal to other countries. That is bilateral agreement. Bilateral agreement is signed between two countries, and as for the bilateral trade agreement, on whichever good they signed the agreement, that goods they have to exchange between them only. And both the countries are not allowed to exchange the goods with other countries. That is bilateral. Whereas multilateral agreement means what? You can sell your goods to any countries. Any service you can sell to any countries in the world. There is no restrictions. So WTO is always encouraging both bilateral and multinational or multilateral trade. Now, the impact of World Trade Organization on the Indian economy. What was the effect of World Trade Organization on Indian economy? Here, two things are there. The WTO urged all the countries to remove the trade barriers to encourage free trade in their country. But when we remove the trade barriers, when we allow the free flow of imports from other country, then all the other countries' goods will come to our Indian market. Then our Indian goods which are produced by the Indian producers will not be sold, will not be purchased by the people of India. Why? Because if you compare the Indian goods with the foreign goods quality is far better than Indian goods. So naturally they'll purchase the foreign goods which are imported from other countries. They stop purchasing Indian goods. When they stop purchasing Indian goods which are produced by Indian manufacturers or producers, then the Indian producers, they have to the business will be stopped. They have to shut their business. They have to close the doors of the business, and they will thrown out of employment, and further it leads to poverty. This is a problem. So let us see here what is the impact of WTO on Indian economy. Okay, the following are the expected benefits. First I'll tell the benefits. The following are the expected benefits of WTO. Number one, it is expected that WTO will offer greater export opportunities. I mean, it is expected that the WTO, World Trade Organization, will provide greater export opportunities to the Indian economy. Our Indian economy felt that we will get more opportunities for exporting our Indian goods in the international market. Accordingly, our share in international trade is expected to increase in future. First benefit. Second one, under multi-fiber arrangements, MFA, under multi-fiber arrangements, our textile and ready-made garments trade, our textiles and ready-made garment trades was subject to quota restrictions. Earlier there was a quota restrictions. Earlier there is a quota, QUOTA, quota restrictions. Now the quota restrictions are removed through new economic policies. Now the quota and tariffs have been removed according to the new economic policies of 1991. Okay, quota restrictions. As per the provisions of WTO, all these restrictions have been removed. It has helped India to increase its exports of garments and increase its exports of garments and textiles. Particularly our textile exports to America. Our textile exports to America and European countries have shown a substantial rise. When we remove the quota and tariff barriers, when we started WTO, when we started multi-fiber arrangements, then our exports are increased. And our exports are increased in textiles and ready-made garments, particularly to America and European countries. Okay. Next one. It has promoted textile industry and generated employment opportunities also. So, this WTO or globalization both helped in generating employment opportunities. Next one. Due to agreed reduction in trade barriers and reduction in subsidies in the domestic producers of agricultural goods is in the developed countries, prices of these goods are expected to rise in the international market. Accordingly, India's exports of the agricultural products are expected to rise. I repeat once again. Due to agreed reduction in trade barriers and reduction in the subsidies to the domestic producers in agricultural goods in the developed economies, the prices of these goods are expected to rise in the international market. Accordingly, India's exports of agricultural products are expected to rise. Now, with greater stability of the international trading system through WTO, India is expecting a marked decline in dumping. India is expecting a marked decline in dumping as a strategy adopted by the developed nations to exploit markets of the less developed countries. On the other hand, we felt that it is through free trade our Indian markets will be collapsed. It is through free trade the imports will be free flowed into Indian market. The Indian market will lost their sales. Next one. Dumping refers to bulk sale of goods. What is what dumping? A dumping sale A dumping sale refers to what? The dumping refers to bulk sale. A dumping refers to what? The bulk sale of goods by the developed countries in the domestic market of less developed countries as a competitive rates. Less rates, cheaper rates. It discourages domestic investment. So when we allow the imports without any trade barriers, then they will be available, the goods will be available in our Indian market cheaper rate. Whenever we allow the imports of other countries without any trade barriers or restrictions, those goods will flow flooded in our Indian market which are available at less price, then it discourages our domestic investment, and consequently the growth of domestic industry of these countries will be collapsed. But it must be noted that the emphasis that the WTO agreement is offering only a asymmetric treatment, okay, to capital market and labor market. WTO advocates free trade or free movement of capital across the different nations. WTO always encourages the free flow, the free trade of capital and goods and services in all the countries, not the free movement of labor. WTO encourages free trade of goods and services and capital, not free movement of labors. Free movement of labors is not encouraged with the WTO. WTO advocates free movement of the capital across different nations and not free movement of labor. While both labor and the capital are labor and capital are commodities of the factory market, they can exploit markets. They can exploit markets in the less developed countries. But in the free flow of labor, which would have fostered the commercial interest of LDCs, less developed countries or least developed countries, LDC, less developed countries or least developed countries like India is not encouraged by WTO. Accordingly, Indian labor does not find a free access to the lucrative, means profitable, lucrative factor market in developed countries. Here, lucrative factor refers to what? Market offering a high wage rate. Market offering a high wage rate. Next comes the parameters. The parameters of, now we'll come about an appraisal, critical appraisal of LPG. So LPG was started in India according to new economic policy. The LPG was started in India according to the economic reforms that were introduced in India since 1991. So under the new economic reforms since 1991, we started LPG, liberalization, privatization, globalization. Now let us see whether this LPG policies, whether they are beneficial for us or they became what? A problem for our Indian economy. So an appraisal of LPG policies or an appraisal, a critical appraisal of LPG policies, so that we have to study. Okay, see, what are the merits of LPG? I'll tell you. First I will explain. Briefly refer to the LPG policies. In the term implies policies related to liberalization, privatization, globalization. An appraisal, analysis, an appraisal of LPG policies implies an appraisal of NEP, new economic policies. An appraisal of LPG policies is nothing but an appraisal of new economic policies. Okay. Or an appraisal of economic reforms initiated in 1991. So when we do the critical analysis of LPG, that means we are doing the critical analysis of new economic policies of 1991. Now, appraisal of LPG or the new economic policy requires that the reader appreciates or understands the merits and the demerits of this policy. So what are the merits of LPG? What are the demerits of LPG? That we have to study. So this can be studied. Okay, it took 20 minutes. That was time we are not having. So today I am stopping the class here only. I am ending my video here only. In the next class we will study about what are the benefits of LPG, what are the merits and what are the demerits of LPG, or the critical appraisal of LPG policies. That means the critical appraisal of new economic policies of 1991. That we will study in the next period. Okay, students. So thank you very much, students, and I suggest all my students to read the textbook once, the NCERT textbook once on this of these topics, so that you can understand better way. So thank you, students. Take care. Have a nice day.